Hello and welcome to the real story of Autoimmune Disease Summit. Discover the unspoken causes of autoimmune disease and the impact of your emotions have on your healing. I'm your host, Roberta Tach, and today it's a pleasure to have here with me Dr. Benjamin Belunis. Dr. Benjamin Belunis is the author of the book Create Health, Reverse Autoimmune Disease Without Drugs or the Side Effects. People with autoimmune disease work with Dr. Ben to conquer their condition once and for all. Because most are sick of dealing with chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and medications that just give them side effects, he helps them learn the tools to get out of pain, get the vitality back, and feel like a normal person again. Bottom line, you reclaim control of your body instead of it controlling you. He has been featured in several podcasts, including Rise Again podcast, Expect Miracles podcast, Unlock Wellness podcast, and Inspired Success magazine. Hello, Dr. Ben. Welcome.
Thanks for having me here. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So I am curious and I really would like to know more about your story. So why don't we start off by sharing a little bit of your story and how you got to be here where you are today.
Sure. So some people might not necessarily believe this, but I actually started out having my own autoimmune issues, and that's why I got into this. It wasn't like, oh, that sounds like a good thing people need right now. It was out of necessity. And 12 years ago, I was in an entirely different career. I was working as an engineer in the microchip industry. And I started coming down with health issues that really doctors couldn't figure out. I had really bad chronic fatigue, really bad chronic muscle pain, really bad skin issues, really bad digestive issues. And so I thought I would just, go to the doctor and they would give me a medication that would cure it and I would be on with my life. But I quickly found out that it didn't work that way. I got a lot of, oh, well, we ran all the tests and everything looks normal. And your blood work looks normal, you're fine. And a lot of people being, well, we can't figure this out. We'll just pass you on to the next specialist. And so a lot of getting no answers and no real help. And since they couldn't put a label or a diagnosis on it, they just kind of treated it like, well, it's not even really a thing, but
that's
here I am.
Very, very frustrating and also scary, right? Because you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on. You think, okay, am I just some unique anomaly, right? That's just like I'm the one thing they can't figure out. I come to find out later on that this is a very common experience that people go and they get lab work done or they get tests and the doctors say, well, can't find anything wrong with you, right? But at the time, I thought like I was the only one. And so I started to get very upset, depressed. I was getting really frustrated with the medical system because they were just kind of giving me the runaround. And I had always trusted in the medical system. I thought anybody who was doing anything alternative was quack, blah, blah, blah. And so,
Especially coming,
yeah,
engineer, it's science is first. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, very, very scientific, very left brain, majored in engineering, minored in math, very left brained. And so it took me a little while, but eventually I got very disillusioned with things. And I was like, well, they can't figure it out. I can keep like going down this rabbit hole, going on this merry-go-round of being given no answers. Or I can try to figure it out on my own. And that's what I did. Because I was really desperate. I mean, my fatigue was to the point where I could barely work. My pain was every day. My digestive issues were with every meal I ate. I mean, I was really struggling.
Yeah,
and I didn't
and
look
this
at
affects everything. It's not only your health, but once your health is in that state, plus without knowing what is going on, that can mentally affect even more. There is a repercussion in all aspects of your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My career was starting to tank. My relationship was starting to really be affected. And you notice about the mental part too. It was like I really started to think like, am I crazy? Like all the doctors say there's nothing wrong, but I feel like there's nothing wrong. A lot of people aren't taking me seriously. And so that really affects your mental health too, because you're like,
You're self-doubting yourself and like, am
Yeah,
I crazy here? What is going on? Yeah,
yeah.
that's
So it
not
was a really
easy.
dark place for sure. And that's when I just started researching anything alternative I could get my hands on, and I was reading books and watching documentaries and like reading journal articles, and just became a full-time just researcher, and was just trying to, was dug in a hole and was trying to get myself out. And so that set me on a new journey, really did. And I remember like reading about, oh, if you eat better, if you eat healthier, maybe a lot of these issues will go away. And I thought, well, I'm not doing that. But after trying so many things and not getting results, I said, okay, I like waved the white flag. I'll try eating healthier. Well, how could it possibly be a negative?
Mhm.
And that's when I really started to notice a shift, and I got real excited about that. And one thing led to another, and eventually I was able to like reverse the disease, heal all my symptoms, just using primarily nutrition. And then, I did get into mind body stuff later on. I think the
Mhm.
nutrition healed most of it, but the mind body stuff was really helpful to kind of get the last maybe 15-20% of it. And that just set me on a journey. And eventually, I got to the point where I was like, there's a lot of people that need help because all the doctors I went to didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
And they might have been well intentioned, but they couldn't help me. And I realized there's a lot of other people struggling. And I just felt the sense of urgency of duty to like get out there and give back and help other people heal like I did. So
Yeah.
that's the journey in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think it's when you get into this the bottom and up, you normally it comes a sense of compassion for others who have been there and know their struggle from inside out, and then like, okay, I want to help others. That's such a beautiful thing that you're doing. And so now tell me a little bit about. You mentioned about the medical model of fighting disease failed to create a cure. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I think the medical model really looks at symptoms and focuses on disease and how can we stop the symptom from happening. And it's good in certain instances, right? Like it's good if I'm bleeding and I have a cut. It's like I gotta bandage it and stop the bleeding, right?
Yeah,
But with autoimmune disease, generally the general strategy is like, okay, well, the immune system must be attacking the joints, or it's attacking the digestive system, or it's attacking the thyroid. And the strategy then is, well, we got to suppress the immune system, right? Because like it's being bad, and it's like a 5-year-old that's naughty, and you got to go in a corner and time out, Mr. Immune System. Well, there's a problem, right? The problem is you need that immune system, right? Like,
exactly.
if anything, the last 2 years have showed us like the immune systems are super important. Um, and so now it's like we suppress the immune system to stop the body from attacking, the joints, but now the immune system can't fight off coughs and colds and cancer and all this other stuff. So you end up creating all these side effects, right?
And also
Sometimes,
side effects of the suppressant medicines.
yeah.
I took prednisone for a few years, 30 years ago. I kind of, yeah, there's a long list of side effects that can be quite damaging the body.
Yeah, and so when we take this approach of trying to fight disease, we end up just creating more of it,
Mhm.
unfortunately, right? And so what happens then is like that's the medical model. So it's like now we have other diseases we got to fight. So now we got to give you other drugs to combat the side effects of the initial drug, and it becomes this snowball effect, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if we stop focusing on like fighting symptoms and focused on creating health and just getting the body healthy enough that it could heal this itself, then the tables turn and all the side effects become good things.
Yeah, so it's bringing balance to the body. Yeah, so not only that, I remember the doctor gives one medicine and the medicine has a side effect. And then after that side effect, he said, no, now you go to see that specialist for that particular side effect. And, and you go seeing everyone instead of allowing the body to heal more naturally and with less and less medicine. I'm not against medicine, but I'm really against excess of medicine when it's not necessary. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of doing what's the most effective solution, whether that's medicine or what else, putting on a Halloween costume and doing headstands. I don't like if it gets results, I'll do it.
I
You
love
know.
that. Yeah. So talk about, I would like you to talk a little bit more about this concept of creating health, which is you were talking about, which is much more powerful than fighting disease.
So the human body is meant to be healthy. That's what it's trying to do. And with a symptom, it's really trying to alert you that there's a problem. And so when we focus on doing all the things to bolster health, eating lots of fruits and vegetables, getting enough sleep, getting exercise, mindfulness, meditation, things like that, we bolster the body's natural ability to heal itself. Okay. If you think about this, if you get a cut, right, on your hand, all right, and if you if you just let it go, eventually it heals, right? The body can heal itself.
Yeah.
Now, if you rub dirt in that hand and like grass, rocks, and you scrap it, you pick at the scab and all this stuff, it's going to take longer to heal, right? Because you're interfering with the healing process.
Yes.
Now, conversely, if you put on a bandage, you put on a Band-Aid over that wound and you just let it go, now you've removed the interference. Now nothing can get in there to infect the cut and it heals faster. Now, when you do that, do you take off the Band-Aid and then the cut's healed and you go, wow, this Band-Aid healed me. Wow, that's a miracle. It's like, no, it's absurdity. Like the Band-Aid didn't have any magical healing powers. All it did was prevent things from interfering with the healing. It removed any obstructions to the healing. And so just in that way that your hand can heal, well, actually your body can heal from chronic disease. But the trick is to provide it the right conditions, to remove all the interference, remove the junk food, remove the stimulants, remove the alcohol, remove the stinking thinking, right?
Mhm.
And miraculously, when you provide it the optimal conditions to do what it's supposed to do, it performs what appear to be miracles, but it's just actually the miraculousness of the human body.
The natural healing is true. I don't need to tell my body if I cut my hand, okay, heal here, do something.
Yeah.
It naturally happens. So you mentioned about diet and life and a lifestyle plan that can reverse conditions of autoimmune disease. But we are animals of habits, and it's not so easy many times to change bad habits. So, what do you recommend as an efficient way to change a habit or the efficient way to start changing a habit?
Sure. And that's a great point. Like, right, it's not easy.
It's not easy,
Um,
and I think an alone is much more difficult too.
yeah, I mean, it change is definitely not easy. So I'm not here to say that it is.
Mhm.
Even though it's like eating simple, like just eating more fruits and vegetables is a pretty simple concept. You go to the grocery store, you buy them. When they get ripe, you eat them. It's like it's not super complicated, but changing habits is. And so I think that, that there's some things that it can really help. Is like, first off, mindset and who you hang around, right? And if you're with a bunch of other people who are eating unhealthy, living unhealthy, thinking unhealthy, they're going to be a bad influence on you, right? So
It's almost I always say it's almost contagious, right? Even
it
though it's
is.
not a
Yeah.
disease or virus, it is contagious. Yeah.
You've probably heard the phrase that you're the average of the five people you hang out with.
Yeah. Yes.
So, I mean, not that you got to tell your friends to go kick rocks, but you want to start hanging out and being around people and going to events where people are, shooting for similar things, want to be healthy, want to heal, things like that. And then you are around those types of people and around people who are getting the results that you want, and it programs your brain to say, okay, well, if Jeff and Cindy can do it, well, I can do it, right? And
Mhm.
then the other thing I think is you need just like accountability and support, because like it's it's not like you're going to start from day one and be perfect all the time. You're going to fall off, right? And so if you have
Yeah,
accountability and support, from someone, well, now it's like when you do fall off, you get back on the horse right away, as opposed to like, yeah, a day goes by, a week goes by, a month goes by, and then you've undone all the work that you did. So
yeah.
I think community and support are really clutch, are like imperative for making lifestyle changes.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. Accountability and support is so necessary because also when we are talking about autoimmune disease patients and people with problems that probably has been a while, it's not something that just, especially when it really chronic conditions, it takes a while for the person even to accept that or even to accept the medical like you did before. And medical system did not really help or help as much as the person wants. So they already have a most of the time a history of frustration or being really upset with what is going on in their bodies. So they need to have more support and accountability to be able to change for a different way of being, thinking, eating. Yeah, a different lifestyle. Definitely support. They need that. Thank you. And I was just thinking once I was talking to a friend. It was a friend, and I'm not into nutrition, but I know that eating lots of bread and flour is not good. It is inflammatory. And I was telling her, I think you should cut all this. She has rheumatoid arthritis, and I said, I think this is not good for you. And then this is some years ago. And then I said, Did you? So we meet again, and I tell her, Did you stop eating the bread and all this flour that you're eating with everything? And she said, Oh, yeah, now I'm eating whole flour. And I said, It doesn't make a difference. I just said, cut the flour. And it's like there is a bit of a resistance even to change, more completely. But I think that's why support is so important. So now you mentioned also about managing stress, like eating the right food is one aspect, exercise, sleep is also, sleep well is very important. And we need, and I think not only people with autoimmune disease, I think all of us need to know how to manage our stress better, because stress happens, life happens, and our body reacts because it's a normal um, reaction. Really, it's a normal way of responding to stress. Is the body has a reaction that is a survival mechanism. Many times we do not need to react as much as we do, and there's accumulation. So managing stress, what ideas would you give us to help us to manage stress? And if you can talk a little bit about how is your experience with your patients?
Sure. So there's a lot of different aspects to that, and I like how you use that word manage it, because it is a fact of life. It's not going anywhere.
It's not
Uh,
going anywhere.
we can
Exactly.
we can we can do things to mitigate it. We can do things to have less of it. And I think one of the things is that there's like healthy and unhealthy ways to manage it, right? Because
Yeah.
you can smoke, drink, gamble, play video games. Like there's a lot of unhealthy outlets.
Oh,
Because
food also is addiction to
yeah,
stress a lot in food. Yeah.
and these things really just cover up the stress, or they kick the can down the road of experiencing the stress at a later date. They numb you to it, but they don't really address it. So there are numerous healthy ways, and we can list off a bunch of them. And I don't want people to think, okay, now I got to go out and do all of these, right? But like implement the ones that are like gonna be the highest leverage first, build a habit at that, and then start implementing other ones. Getting enough sleep is huge. I've actually been struggling with that one lately.
Mm.
Um, Getting exercise is super important for stress. Um, Having some kind of mindfulness habit, whether it's like meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, transcendental meditation, breath work, whatever. All these
Or
things are
some type
really,
of a yoga. Some yogas also work on the meditation. It's not
yeah.
just malabarism, like when the yoga treats the other side also. Yeah.
Yeah, like involving the body in the mindfulness is even more powerful than just, not that there's anything wrong with sitting and meditating. I do that every day,
Mhm.
but involving the body too is gets it at an even deeper level. So yoga is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just relationships and connections, and having people that when you're not feeling good or when you are stressed out, that you can really talk to and have, an honest conversation with. And yeah, just having people that you can confide in, and people that you can talk to about these things. And many people actually don't, or they have a bunch of relationships that are very like surface level. Like they can go out and drink together and they could talk about sports, but like how I'm really feeling on the inside is just not it's just not a topic of conversation. So you want to have the depth in those relationships
I,
as
I
well.
think, yeah, I think that is key, especially now after this COVID thing and isolation. I was just reading the other day saying that isolation is like 15 cigarettes a day. And I don't know how they could put this number, but this came from some doctors and scientific research that isolation affects the body so much that is the same as if you were smoking. And I'm like, wow, that's huge, especially now after the COVID and everybody staying in their own house or home. And of course, it's changing, but a lot of people are not the same as before also. And I had some people say, I do not know how to relate now. I do not know how to see people. I don't even know if I want to see people. I'm like, I think you'd better go and see people before you become even worse, your
Yeah.
mental
Oh,
state. We are social beings. We are social beings. So
absolutely.
it's necessary to see people. So now I'm very curious about coming back to the food. You talk a lot about the fruits and vegetables. So why fruits and vegetables? If you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I mean, it almost seems like too much common sense, right? And the fact is that fruits and vegetables are our natural diet. All right. If you look at the animals that are closest to us in nature, that's like chimpanzees and bonobos, they eat a diet of primarily fruit and leafy greens. Okay, they live in the jungle, and that's what's available. And so these are the fruit foods that best meet our nutrient needs and
Mhm.
have the most amount of nutrition that's bioavailable to us, and the least amount of things that are unhealthy to us, and leave behind the least amount of metabolic waste. So the body has to do the least amount of work to process and assimilate them into nutrition in our bodies. And so like heavily processed foods, and you're talking about bread and things like this, and like um, processed meats and things like that, are very foreign to the body. It doesn't know what to do with them. It's like, okay, I can kind of break this down into calories, but there's a lot of stuff here that like I don't think is good, right? And so there's a lot of toxicity in that, and that gives the body and the immune system more work to do to process that and get rid of it. And so the less work that the body has to do getting rid of the toxicity that you're putting in your mouth, well, now it can use that energy to clean house of what's already in there and start to heal itself. But the more work you give it to do by feeding it unhealthy food, well, the less work it can do on healing.
Yeah. And also you mentioned get rid of toxicity, but many times if you keep eating and this toxicity also accumulates in the body and then you cannot get rid of it. And that has damaged the system, I think, damaged the tissues and it's also you buy something, you look at the label, there's, I don't know, 15, 20 ingredients. And they're like, wait, what language is this? It's
Yeah.
doesn't
And
does
and
not
if you
seem to be very healthy. Yeah,
if you can't read it, your body definitely doesn't know what it is, right? And so that's
exactly.
work it's got to do to try to get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Real
And
food doesn't have an ingredients label. It just is. You go to the store and you buy grapes. There's no ingredients. Like, it's grapes. Okay. Yeah,
Exactly. And if it's organic, better.
exactly.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you. Okay, this is really great. Thank you so much, and has been really amazing to talk to you today. So we have a gift from Dr. Ben Belunis today, and the gift is the Autoimmune Recovery Blueprint. So you have the link below here where you can access the blueprint. It's a quick start guide to restart or reignite your healing journey. Do you want to talk a little bit about this blueprint just for the audience to know a little bit?
Sure. So this is really just the fundamental tools that you need to get started on healing with like nutrition and mindfulness and all that. So I put it together. It's a 10-page guide. It's just got the fundamentals. And
Oh,
honestly, if
great.
you take that to heart and start implementing what's in there, you're going to see big results. So I love just being able to serve your people and give that to them for free. And I hope that they get a lot of value out of it.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for offering this. So we are going to end our session today. But before we finish, do you have any final word for people who are suffering from autoimmune disease that you would like to say?
Sure, I would say don't give up, keep going, seek out people that are getting the results that you desire, and listen to them, like mimic them as far as what they do to stay well, and don't listen to the people who, like aren't dealing with what you've got or don't have any experience with it because or the people who aren't getting the results you want, because what they say doesn't matter. What matters is the people who are getting the results that you want. And if you stick to listening to them and getting inspired by them, you're going to see results.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been really great. So thank you, Dr. Ben Belunis, for your participation and also your time and your expertise. And I'm sure everyone here enjoyed this session. So thank you for joining us today. And remember to tune back to the real story of Autoimmune Disease Summit. Thank you.